It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining this morning. We've got a really beautiful film to watch and some lovely slides as well. We're going to hear from Jack McNeill, who's based in Kendal, who's, I'm just looking at the note, Jack, you were here a year ago and it's nice to have you back as well. Jack's an amazing musician and creative, and we're going to hear about what he's doing at the moment. And Waggot Knott is going to tell us about a great exhibition that's just opening at Florence. Dorothy Ramsay, who is a Cumbrian artist, so we're going to hear and see some pictures about that. And then Claire Logan-Stephens from Rheged has got that lovely new exhibition that's just been opened at Rheged called 40 Farms. There's an accompanying book, I think, with that as well, but Claire's going to tell us all about that. Again, it looks like, I think, the paper exhibition, if anybody saw that at Rheged over the summer, it's fantastic. And this is hot on the heels of that, so looking forward to seeing that as well. That is the plan for this morning. Of course, there are subtitles available. If you need subtitles, just click on one of your buttons, probably at the bottom of your screen. And we always record these conversations and put them onto Facebook and onto Twitter at the start of the following week. So if you want to catch up on any conversations or tell anyone about it, then that is around usually by about the Tuesday of the following week. Right, then and then Derek can tell us about a pantomime as well. So that to look forward to as well. But first of all, let's hear from Kate, who of course is our chair, Kate Parry. Hello, Kate. The sun is shining on your face.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Hello, Colin. We were just saying.
Oh, Colin's popped up. That's great.
Yeah, Colin's here. We haven't seen him for a few weeks. And it's nice to see Colin and everybody else. Yeah, so this time last week we had our quarterly meeting at Rose Hill Theatre. There were about 60 folk in total, a dozen online and the remainder in person. I think we just about managed the technology, and it was a really good day. Thank you to everybody who came and tuned in. Especially thank you to the contributors. It was really good to hear from such a range of people, with people running organisations, people working in organisations, people practising in various different ways and experiencing culture. We were talking about inclusivity and relevance. So we heard a range of people speaking about their own lived experience, and that was really powerful. It's another reminder that lived experiences are so valuable and really give us a much deeper understanding of what the challenges are and the differences that we need to make, the change that we need to drive. I came away completely overwhelmed really by everything that we'd heard, and it's quite difficult to sort of make head and tail of it, but I'm still digesting it. There are definitely actions I will take. I think the thing that struck me most was Matt Ray, who is the house manager at Rose Hill Theatre. He is a wheelchair user, and his experiences were just so profound and made me really think that all the work that he has to do just to get from A to B in a cultural organisation or venue, there is so much we can do to improve his experience, and it's not rocket science. Some of the changes that we need to make are not huge, so I'm still thinking about how I can put that into practice in the places where I work, and I hope that everybody else that was there went away with things in their mind that they can also change. So if you have feedback or comments or ideas or suggestions for the next one about content or about how we run it, then please do get in touch. We really are genuinely keen to hear from you. I will put my email in chat now if you have any feedback and we're there. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kate. It's just really nice to see everybody face to face as well. Nice to chat and network and see that lovely red van from Lakeland Arts parked outside.
Yellow, it's yellow.
Yellow, sorry, yellow. Which is driving around the county and beyond to take culture to the masses and to take culture to the corners of Cumbria that are difficult to get to. So anyway, thank you, Kate. That was lovely. Right, well, let's move on, and we are going to hear from Jack McNeill now, who's Kendal based. Jack's a clarinettist. There are 3 T's in clarinettist. I always thought there were 2, but in fact there were 3 T's in clarinettist. He's a clarinettist, composer, and make a living in Kendal, and he combines touring internationally between the worlds of theatre and chamber music with collaborative projects, such as his 12-piece ensemble Propellor, who are bringing their most recent work, Flight, which is music, birds, and soundscape ecology, to Brewery Arts for its premiere on October the 1st. It's great to see Miriam on the call here, who of course is the chief exec of Brewery Arts. So when I got in touch with Jack a few weeks ago, it just sounded really interesting what he was doing. I'd never heard of Jack before, and much to my chagrin. It's great to have Jack on the call, and I've learned a lot about him since meeting him. But I'm going to hand over to Jack now and ask him a few questions, and we're going to see a bit of film of a previous project and then find out what makes Jack tick. So Jack, you're very welcome. You're in your music room there in Kendal, is that right?
Yep, that's right. Hello, everybody. Very nice to be here, and thanks for having me, Tom, and everyone.
Absolute pleasure. And you probably know a few faces on this call.
I do know faces in this call. Some from when I was at school.
so you're at school in Cumbria?
Yeah, I was at a secondary school in Carlisle. I was at Trinity and Kingmore Junior School in Carlisle, and I was in Kendal till I was about 7. So if there are any Gilside alumni, I'm sure maybe we've crossed paths in the sandpit. It was nice to hear Kate's chat about the bus. I didn't know about that. My mum used to take books out from Kendal Library around Cumbria, and she told me lots of lovely stories about taking things out and about to the small corners and nooks and crannies of the area. So I'm sure there's lots of good being done. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks.
And when did you meet the clarinet, as it were? When did you first start playing the clarinet? Was that at school?
That was at school. Yeah, that was at secondary school. We had a wonderful, wonderfully enthusiastic music teacher at Kingmore Junior School, called Lindsay. Oh my word! I was telling somebody about her yesterday. It'll come back to me. I'm really sorry, Lindsay. But and the headmaster, Mr. Baker at the time, was also really keen in music. So it was just the instrument I got given, though, to be honest. I mean, before that, I played recorder and often didn't bring it, so I had to play a ruler instead as punishment. And and the clarinet, so it was kind of an accident, and I stuck with it, and have since also picked up the bass clarinet.
And when did you work out that you could actually make a living out of your clarinet? I'm making an assumption there that you're making a living out of your clarinet.
Yeah. I mean, when did I work that out? I took a risk. I took a chance, I suppose. When I finished my masters, I was given because I spent 7 years at music college, which is an awful amount of time. But I'd started playing with lots of groups in Birmingham professionally, and so I thought, well, I'll stick around and try and sort of get as much out of being here as possible. And I was given, when I finished my masters, I was given an opportunity to go to Germany by a composer who was working with a dance company there, and so I just didn't go back to my teaching job. And to my shame, I've still got the Zoom recorder that I used to take around my teaching job. And I never told anybody I took it to Germany. And so anyway, that was my first bit of tech kit. But since then, I've purchased everything I own. And yeah, that was it really. So I sort of took the chance to go and do performing kind of full time. And yeah, I kind of fell into lots of interesting pockets after that, because I suppose what I missed out on was the rush to join an orchestra when I had graduated. So I was playing as a freelancer with a few different orchestras, with the Deutsche Kammerfamilie and with the London Symphony Orchestra and the CBSO, and I went and started working with this dance company in Berlin. And sort of off the back of that, I met a wonderful director in Switzerland who was making a very strange show all about an English medium and was looking for a clarinet player. It just so happened, and kind of eventually, kind of all these dots joined together, and I came back, and I'd missed that sort of like graft as a kind of freelancer in the kind of the kind of orchestral meat factory, and found myself sort of in a bit of a different space as a contemporary clarinetist that could work in and lots of different areas.
Okay, well, we'll find out a bit more about that, and perhaps, you know, what it's like to try and make that career happen and live in Cumbria at the same time. But first of all, I wanted to show a bit of film from Lakes Alive, which was, I think, 3 years ago now, where you had a piece with Propellor, which is the 12-part ensemble, I think, that you've created. So do you want to just say a few words about that? And then I'll play the film, which is about 5.5, 6 minutes long, and people can just enjoy that and hear about people on that film talking about the piece. And then we'll pick up from the back of that. So tell us a bit about this piece, Jack.
Sure. So Loom was a project that follows the watercourse backwards from the sea to the sky, and it was made over 2 years at the same time as bringing Propellor and all the players together, they were people that I'd met in different chamber situations or in different orchestras or kind of working in the theatre, and I thought it'd be great to get all these people in one room. And I was lucky enough to get a 2-year residency at Snape Maltings in Suffolk to put the band together and to write this piece. And I'd never written anything on this scale before, but it's about an hour long, and when it toured, we recorded interview from local people talking about what the watercourse meant to them, and in each new place we collaborated with a new artist to make it really site specific. And that new bit of work was knitted back into the main piece. So in the video you're about to see, that was 3 Cumbrian poets and an artist from Kendal as well.
Hi, I'm Caroline. This is my studio, my workshop, and I'm a printmaker from Cumbria and work in a variety of mediums. I have currently been working on an exhibition which is about water.
My name's Hannah. I'm a poet and I live in Cumbria. I wrote a poem for Loom.
My name's Polly, I'm a poet, I live in Cumbria, and I wrote a poem which we use in Loom as well.
My name's Robin Beattie, I'm a guitarist and visual designer. Propellor is a 12-piece ensemble of multi-instrumentalists from a range of musical backgrounds. Our touring work, Loom, is site-specific. We collaborate with local artists to weave together an audiovisual performance which portrays our collective experience of water. And the piece follows its journey backwards from the sea to the sky.
I wrote my poem last spring after going for a swim in the lake in Grasmere where I live. I swim a lot and it's very important to me. The feeling that you have after swimming in fresh water of being clean in a very particular way, and the poem's called Lake Clean. So I kind of started from that angle.
Suspended above, in and under. We dwell in transparency. We sweep mountains aside with our arms without wincing. We move with something like ease.
I met Jack from Propellor because I think when he arrived in Kendal he picked up on a poster that I have for the show, which includes a round image of water. We very quickly met and asked me if I could provide some images quite quickly to send off to the filmmaker.
As both a musician and a visual designer, my job's to integrate the exciting contributions that we have from the artists.
I sent off a lot of images which he managed to weave into his film, and that was just wonderful.
So my poem, I had spoken to quite a few people about their experience of flooding. It was very heart-wrenching, really. So I wanted to get across the personal cost and write that in the first person. So that's what I did.
So when I went to see the concert, which was mind-blowing in itself, suddenly one of my prints, suddenly it was all over the floor and moving. And so I saw that in a completely different way again. And it's, for me, it's fascinating because I've taken something moving, water, the becks moving, and made them still, and then he made them move again. So that was so exciting, and I loved it. I just loved it. And now I want to learn how to do it.
Leading up to the kind of prompt point for each piece, I was like really anxious building up to those moments, thinking, what if I get it wrong and mess up the whole performance? Because I was very aware of it as being very different to a poetry reading where you're completely in control. And it's such a different thing because you're very aware of the responsibility that you have to the performers who have worked really hard to do all this stuff. Yeah, it was a really wonderful thing to do. And it's such a beautiful piece. It felt kind of odd for me to have my work be part of something which is so amazing and so outside my capacity, I think.
Yeah, I think that an orchestral setting is viewed as quite inaccessible and highbrow, and actually it's made me realise that I would like to do something like this again, and it's broadened my horizons a lot. So
yeah, I'd like an ensemble to go around with me to every event that I do now and play with me.
There we go. It's really nice to let that just sink in, actually. So that was then really interesting hearing people talk about what it's like to participate in that ensemble, the poets in particular, Jack, I thought. Must be a great thing to sort of pull all those people together, kind of get them to help understand what you're trying to achieve, obviously listen to contributions as well. And I'm just thinking ahead to Flight, which is the piece coming to the brewery. It must be quite a piece of work just to get people thinking in the same way.
Yeah, or I suppose just making sure that you've left enough space for other people. If what you want to do is make collaborative work. So yeah, that was Loom, and everywhere that we went, we worked with different people. So we worked with a dancer, we've worked with a folk singer, we worked with a whole community choir, a gospel choir in Birmingham. And Flight is a project that I've been making over the last year and a half as musician residents at Brewery Arts. And it started off as a remote project because we were all working remotely, and so I thought, well, an audio project would be great. And so I started pulling together a podcast series. The initial kernel for that was this amazing book by Mark Cocker. I brought a prop with me today, called Birds and People, which is like a panorama across cultures and time of our freighting of ideas with birds. And so I got in touch with Mark because I'd been listening a lot to soundscape ecology and the work of people like Brené Krause, and I did a commission for Aerial Festival called Rewind Wild that was all about that as a solo project. And so I was pulling these ideas about soundscape ecology and birds and music together in this podcast. And so I got in touch with the whole band and I said, look, let's try and do this remotely. And it opened up lots of new ways for us to work. which I suppose was a clue then to how to collaborate with others. But we worked with audio scoring, with graphic scoring, with text, with me asking them to send me palettes of sound and sort of pull it together. And for the series I interviewed Mark, I interviewed Linda O'Keefe, who's a sound artist, soundscape ecologist up in Edinburgh, David Hendy, who's a writer. He's just written the biography of the BBC, but he wrote a social history of sound called Noise. And then 6 other musicians with very different experiences of their soundscape. So there's an electronic musician called Leafcutter John, who also contributed some music. There's an Iranian turntablist called Shiva Feshareki, Hannah Tuliki, who's an artist up in Glasgow. She works with mimicists and the natural world. 2 musicians from the British Para Orchestra that are blind. So Takashi Kikuchi, a viola player, and Victoria Orawari, who's a soprano, and a deaf musician called Ruth Montgomery, who runs a charity called Audio Visibility. So I spoke to all of them about their different sound experiences, because what became very clear from speaking to Mark is that he's much more than just a bird man. He's he thinks about kind of everything in the round, and so the project became. I mean, I've been sort of like on the edge of my seat for the last 1.5 years, because everyone's been making work about birds and soundscape ecology, and I've been thinking, oh crap, I've missed the boat. But actually, I think kind of what Flight is doing with the way that it's talking about music and listening, and also how that kind of is brought into our social and our social environments, because Linda is also a kind of social soundscape ecologist, has made it something quite special, and about kind of leaving space for others and listening and paying more attention to other people. And so yeah, I was given this opportunity to give it a full ensemble live premiere at the brewery, and I've been working with a wonderful dramaturg called Annie Rigby over in Newcastle. She works for Unfolding Theatre, and she's been helping me put together the podcast, but also this live version of the show. And I reached out to a dancer called Jenny Reeves in Lancaster, and her costume designer, Katie Duxbury, who makes things out of recycled materials. Because part of what we're going to do in the show is we're going to live record Jenny activating her one of the costumes that she wears. We're going to make a field recording out of her live in the gig, and then blend it with the sounds of the band. Ted Kerfoot, who's a local craftsman, is making these wonderful steam bent ash bird frames that we're going to hang recycled percussion from, and then we mic them up very, very close, and we make these sort of huge sounds, so as if you were listening to a field recording, but out of these sort of recycled sounds that live within these wooden birds. And then a fantastic paper artist called Bethan Maddox, who's just moved from Newcastle down to Sheffield, is making 3 gorgeous lanterns, all cut from designs of 3 birds that we focused on with Mark in the project. There's the willow warbler, the bar-tailed godwit, and the swift. And so yeah, the project, it's it kind of working with Propellor, and the reason why I set up with Propellor was so that I could have a vehicle that would allow me to sort of, I suppose, cross these boundaries artistically and kind of work in areas and work with people that did things that I was interested in but that I don't do, and I suppose that's led me to kind of where I'm at now, having kind of, we've got 2 projects like fully under our belt, and I live back in Cumbria. I grew up here and I've moved back here in the last 3 years, and I want to sort of turn Propellor into like a production company engine with a 12-piece ensemble at its heart of fantastic musicians that can collaborate with local people in the area to make really fantastic stuff that could do with that kind of energy behind it.
There's lots of love for you in chats, Jack, so have a look at that in a second. Don't look now because you get distracted and get big-headed. But coming back to Cumbria then, sort of profession, so I can see your heart is in Cumbria, but did it concern you that, you know, Cumbria could be a bit of a backwater, you know, on the edge of, you know, universe, and people aren't here, or does that not, in this day and age, is that not an issue?
Well, it didn't concern me at the time. It's like things were going quite well, and we moved back just before COVID hit. But we moved back. I mean, a lot of my work, to be honest, is kind of touring or project based. So I play like kind of chamber concerts that, you know, kind of one-off stuff, but a lot of what I do goes off on tour for a couple of weeks, comes back. So actually being rooted in a place is easier to do for me than it might be for somebody that was purely working freelance with lots of different orchestras in London. And yeah, now I've got a 19-month-old girl, and yeah, we love where we are, and I'm really determined to make it work. And I guess what I've noticed from starting to feel around kind of gently is just like what an amazing map of makers and creative people there are here, musicians too, and so yeah, I think what I'm keen to do is like try and bring what I've got to offer to the table, and hopefully kind of help make this a place where actually it is really easy to work in this way.
Has anyone got any questions for Jack they want to pop in either in chat, which I can relay, or they can just hold their hand up now and I can spot you and you can fire away on screen? I know, Jack, just while people are thinking, I know there's an unusual, if that's the right word, feature of flight. That is it, special considerations being taken for deaf people. You've alluded to that a little bit in your chat already, but do you want to just give us a minute on that? What's that all about?
Yeah, absolutely. That I'm particularly excited about this because Ruth Montgomery, I'd reached out to her just as an interviewee for the podcast series, and what became she's completely deaf and a flute player, and what became really clear is that everything she was talking to me about sound had nothing to do with being deaf. It was about paying attention. It was about sort of leaving room for other experiences. And so I asked Ruth when we were going to make the live project if she'd come on as a consultant for the visual aspect of the project, because we're also working with a visual team in Vent Media and Barrett Hodgson to produce a lot of projections for this show. So there's we're projecting dance, we're projecting hand movements, we're projecting animated text from the interviews. We're using a live spectrogram, which is like a sound picture of the band. So there's this moment in the piece where everything is going to go dark in the theatre, and you're going to be able to see the sounds that the band play in the dark. And so we're going to be using things like that kind of are universally kind of enriching for those experiences. And we're also working on a program that's it's going to unfold to a big A3 musical score. So a descriptor for people that are either deaf or hard of hearing, that will give them some of those bits, some of those elements of sound that they would miss in the live gig. So that's been fascinating, and I definitely see it as the start of a journey, and one that has grown from kind of, I suppose, the idea behind the project, rather than trying to sort of shoehorn in the kind of accessibility partner. Ruth has sort of come very organically to the project, and so it feels like a very honest thing to be following, and I think it'll make the experience better for everybody. Yeah,
we've got Caroline from the Cumbria Deaf Association on the call, and she just put a note into chat saying that you've reached out to her and you're sharing, she's sharing it with the clients and just looking for a BSL promotional clip to help get the message through.
Oh well, Caroline, Ruth is recording. She's making. Oh, sorry, that's I can't do BSL. But Ruth's recording a BSL synopsis of the piece, and a sort of I think she's going to share it on Audio Visibility's social media channels in the next day or two, and I'll certainly make sure I share it with you.
Okay, lovely. And Phil, were you at school with Jack then? I'm just flying through the notes in chat. Yeah. Phil saying he's known Jack for 20 years. Were you at school together or something?
Yeah. He was in the year below me, and he was super talented. And it's just great. You're doing this, man. It's brilliant. Keeping it going, living the dream.
Well, I think everybody here is doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
It feels very nice to be connecting like this. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Phil. I was in one of Phil's early films.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us, what was that all about?
Oh, it was a James Bond parody. Everybody was James Bond. Jack was one of my James Bonds. I was James Bond. Everybody was James Bond. It was great.
I really hope that still exists somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
We'll have that for our Christmas special call.
Oh.
All right. Well, listen, I know Amy's put the link into chat for the brewery show. It's the 1st of October, which is just around the corner. It just sounds like such a rich, deep and fascinatingly, interestingly, a multi-textured piece that you're doing, Jack.
Thanks, and I should thank the brewery very much, Miriam, who's here, for supporting me, through lockdown and kind of continuing to support the group, because sometimes these complicated things are hard to talk to people about.
Well, great. I mean, good luck with it, but the performance and the other performances, no doubt, that will follow in due course. And thank you very much for sharing all that with us this morning, Jack. And I hope we stay in touch and follow your developments with fascination as well. So great to have you on the call. Thank you so much. Well, let's go from Kendal to Egremont, which is where, of course, the beautiful Florence Arts Centre is, who have got a beautiful exhibition coming up imminently, if not already opened. And Anne Waggot Knott is going to tell us all about it. She's produced it and is looking after it. So Anne, I shall get your slides up and over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. It is indeed already open, and wow, that's a tough act to follow, that amazing immersive experience. I'm looking forward to hopefully booking to go and see that. But yeah, thank you very much, Tom. So myself and Vega Brennan of Linden Print Studio and Laura Harrison, and Dorothy Ramsay, who's on the call as well today, are delighted to present a very special collection of Dorothy's work. She's a really well-known, well-loved Lake District artist. It's on at Florence Arts Centre from now until the 30th of October. Opening times are on the screen just now, but that's Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Just to introduce myself, I was based at Florence Arts Centre. I'm now freelance and supporting and producing this exhibition with Vega and Laura. I'm a middle-aged woman, white, with a blue jumper on and a red necklace and headphones today. So the reason we decided, or Vega and Laura really decided, that this exhibition was timely and important. To paraphrase Vega, Dorothy's work has a unique rigor and vitality that really sets it apart. It's so important that we share this collection with the wider world and recognise how much she's given to Cumbria and the art community all over the UK over the years. Now, Vega and Laura have put a huge amount of work in cataloguing and selecting from Dorothy's archive and also from collectors. And this is the wonderful result. So could I have the next slide, please, Tom? So here's Dorothy. Now, her career has spanned over 60 years, and it encompasses weaving, textiles, painting, drawing and printmaking. Some of you might know that she was instrumental in saving the historic Rheged pottery in the 1970s. She ran it for nearly 20 years with her husband at the time, Jonathan Snell. He made traditional slip ceramics, and she ran a really busy weaving studio, employing 6 other weavers. They also ran a small holding, a bed and breakfast, a cafe and a restaurant, all sorts going on. So a really influential woman and really part of the community. Can I have the next slide, please? So the exhibition itself shows a real breadth of her work. The first time a lot of this has been brought together as a retrospective in one venue. A lot of you may know Dorothy's Lake District landscape work, but some of the highlights for me and the other curators are really things like her earliest prints. You can see this one in the centre at the bottom is one of her very, very early works. Some powerful textile work inspired by volcanoes, paintings documenting some of her travels, and also landscapes and really, really interesting abstract work inspired by coasts and fells. As well as some figurative work too. There's a leopard in Maryport Harbour down in the bottom left, and if you want to hear a little bit more about that, you'll have to come along to the exhibition or the opening, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Could I have the next slide, please, Tom? Thank you. So at 77, Dorothy is still painting, drawing and printmaking with gleeful abandon, and her work is really vibrant and intuitive. And as part of the exhibition, we wanted to give you as a visitor a chance to get your creative juices flowing as well. So there's a free collage table in the gallery with loads of lovely materials for big kids and little kids alike to cut and stick and really make some beautiful stuff, maybe inspired by some of Dorothy's colourful work. We've also done what we can in terms of access with a very limited budget. So we have some beautiful little snippets of conversations between Vega and Dorothy, which are about various periods in her life and really bring a little bit of Dorothy's character and vitality to the show. They're also subtitled on the screen for anybody that would prefer to take part that way. And Florence has flat access and wide doorways. So hopefully some people will find it easy enough to access. We've done what we can, importantly. We are also in the middle of arranging a monoprint workshop for Sunday, the 16th of October. We hope that will go ahead and details will follow about that. So just keep an eye on social media and the Florence website for that. Could I have the next slide, please, Tom? But importantly, we'd love to invite you to come along this Sunday between 12 and 3 when we're having a really lovely informal opening event. Dorothy, Vega and Laura will be there in conversation. Sadly, I'm not able to make it, but I'm there in spirit. And it's an informal drop-in. It's free to attend. You can come along whenever you like. But at 1 o'clock, we'll be raising a glass and Laura will have some words to say about the selection process and about cataloguing and looking at Dorothy's work, and also about how the partnership, the curatorial partnership came about, and again, why they found it important to show some of Dorothy's work together in this way. So next slide, please, Tom. So that's a very brief synopsis of what's on at the exhibition at the moment. As I said, opening hours are Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. They're quite restricted, so check the Florence website if you need to be sure of that. Hopefully there's something there for the Dorothy superfans, of which there are many, and also others who just appreciate intriguing stories and vibrant art. So do come along if you can. I'll put the website details in the chat as well. So yeah, thanks very much. Vega's also here, and Dorothy, if anybody has any more questions. But thanks for listening, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, Anne, for that. Is Dorothy on the call?
Yes.
Hello, Dorothy.
Hello.
It's very nice to have you on the call.
Thank you.
How does it feel to have an exhibition at the Florence?
Oh, exceptionally wonderful. Thank you. I've been waiting all my life till I get good, you know, and then seeing this exhibition and seeing that I actually did some good stuff when I was 16 and 18. I thought, I'm going to have to rewrite my story now. Perhaps I might be good enough.
Well, obviously someone does think you're good enough. Vega, you've obviously helped select all of this work. Tell us how you've gone about doing that.
We haven't been short of work to choose from. It's been wonderful. It's not as if you're kind of scrabbling around trying to go. It's more like, oh, we can't put this in, there's not the space. Oh, we can't put that in, there's not the space. But what we try to do is get work from each period of Dorothy's life as much as we can. There's some very powerful work there. And I think that if you know Dorothy as a Lake District artist, you know, landscape artist, there's so much more to Dorothy. And I think it's really important to show that story as well.
Dorothy, have you got a sort of a few favourite paintings that you're particularly happy with that you could perhaps share a couple of thoughts with us about?
Well, I like that original aquatint that I did when I was 16. I've never actually done another etching quite so technically good. It's been downhill since there, really. But I do like the ginormous woodcuts that I did for my final piece for my MA, based on a story from America. And I look at them and I think, wow, did I make those?
They are incredibly powerful and take you to a really unexpected place in the exhibition. And I feel it's worth seeing just to experience those, to be honest, but I won't tell you anymore.
And tell us about the leopard in Maryport Harbour.
Me? Well, I went to see he used to live in Cumbria on the Solway coast, a potter called Ben, and he did such lovely little animals. I thought, I want one of those in one of my paintings. So I emailed him and said, can I please use your leopard image, please? And he said yes. So I thought, oh, where would this leopard love to go? And I thought, oh, Maryport, of course. And then I can have something from the coast and a lovely image. So I did one of a leopard and one of a lion. The one of the lion is a mysterious place, a bit off market, really. Anyway, that one's not in the exhibition, but it inspired a lot of other work.
Fantastic. Well, I shall never see Maryport Harbour in quite the same way again, I don't think. It looks like a wonderful exhibition and some really nice events wrapped around it as well. So, Anne, thank you so much for telling us about that. And Dorothy and Vega, it's open there until the end of October, I think, if I'm right in saying. So thank you so much. And please get down to Florence and enjoy that. And Anne, was there something else you wanted to mention as well?
Yes, please, very quickly. So I'm just about to join the board of Upland, which is the arts development and support organisation that looks after creatives in Dumfries and Galloway, one of our neighbouring regions just over the border. And they host a huge open studios event every year, Spring Fling, which is just about in spring. It's on the bank holiday weekend at the end of May next year, so 27th to the 29th of May. They've just put out a call for artists to join in with the Spring Fling and host an open studio. And they welcome applications from neighbouring artists as well as artists within Dumfries and Galloway. So if anybody's interested in what I think is really Scotland's premier open studios event, it's very professional, it's very well organised. Takings in previous years have been amazing. If selling is your kind of measure of success, it's not a bad one to consider. So if you check the Upland website, I'll pop the link in the chat. Applications for that are open now, and there's a selection process. There's quite a lot to do. So if you're interested in getting involved, check that out fairly soon. They can match artists from outside of Dumfries and Galloway up with venues and locations in Dumfries and Galloway that can host them for that open studios event. So you know, there'll be a place for you if you're selected to show your work. Okay.
Thanks, Anne. I went to the Spring Fling earlier this year for the first time. It was just a lovely, lovely weekend and saw some absolutely astonishing art.
It's brilliant. And if anyone's interested in it and wants to have an informal chat with me before they apply, I'm on the board, but I've also been involved as an artist with the studio before. So I can give you a little bit more information if you like. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Anne. Ellen just putting in chat there. I love the stories behind the work, Dorothy. Thank you so much for sharing a few today. Congratulations on the exhibition. And Amy saying, Dorothy is the most prolific artist I've ever met. There you go. There's a thing to think about. So lovely. Great. So Spring Fling is terrific. Get involved, talk to Anne, get down to Florence for Dorothy Ramsay's exhibition. Lots to be going on there with. Okay, right. Now, 10:15, we're going to cross now back to Rheged. So we're going to trundle along back on the A66, where Claire Logan-Stephens does amazing things with the exhibition space and probably lots of other things besides. I really enjoyed the paper craft exhibition that was there this summer, and has just opened is the new 40 Farms exhibition. So Claire, I shall get your slides up and you can tell us all about how this has come about and what people can see. Over to you, Claire. If you just come off mute there.
Thank you, Tom, for that really kind words. Amazing presentations as ever this morning. It's always a bit intimidating going last. So 40 Farms. So the idea, interestingly, came about on the back of Through the Looking Glass exhibition that we did at Rheged. Built a strong partnership with Dave Felton, who's the amazing publisher based in Keswick, for Inspired by Lakeland. And I happened to say to him, so what's your next project, Dave? And he said, oh, well, I'm going to produce a book with Amy Bateman about 40 farms. And I was like, wow, that would make an amazing exhibition for Rheged. And sort of so it started. Amy Bateman is a Cumbrian farmer. She was a physiotherapist. And then she's had 3 children, twins who are now 12 years old. And when she was taking a break from physiotherapy, next slide, please, Tom. When she was taking a break from physiotherapy, she started to photograph her children. And she got really into photography, and her husband said, well, I'll pay for you to do a course at Kendal College to learn a lot more about photography. And she's just a natural, and she went on to win British Life Photographer of the Year, and this was the image that she won that award with. And so her project 18 months ago was, she's from a farming background, she's incredibly switched on about farming, she's got a huge depth of knowledge about it, and she wanted to really raise the profile of farming at a really, really tricky time for farming in the UK, but in Cumbria as well, because they're going to lose their European subsidies. And a lot of them are now having to think very hard about how they can protect the long-term future of their farm. So she selected 40 farms from across the whole of Cumbria, from the fell tops to the Solway, those that have unchanged for generations, through to those that are using cutting-edge innovation to try and protect the future of their farm, through to sort of world-class sheep breeders and some amazing food producers. So she went around each of the farms. Because she was from a farming background, she was really able to open up the conversation with the farmers, created film footage, photographs, to produce a 300-page book, a coffee table book, which is absolutely stunning. And we've used that material to create an exhibition. Next slide, please. I think the interesting thing, as well as, it's not just a photography exhibition, it is a really interesting human story from 40 different people that really shows how farmers are really innovative, independent, resilient. This is Angus Richardson, you may know him, he's in the Eden Valley. By the age of 18, he'd lost both his parents and found himself in the situation of running a 1,000-acre farm in the Eden Valley. He was featured on the Simon Reeve programme, and it's about how the community have come round to support him. His friends from school are all helping to run the farm and keep it going. It's a very topical exhibition because it asks questions about, are we set in Cumbria to produce food, to feed the nation? How can we protect our landscape? All about some of the farms are nature-friendly farming, they're rewilding. So it's a challenging exhibition in the stories that it tells. And I think we at Rheged and Amy and Dave Felton really, really want to use this exhibition to try and help people understand farming. It's a really, really complex issue. It's a really topical time for farming. So it's been designed in such a way to be very accessible. Next slide, please. So with some encouragement, I applied for an Arts Council grant. I'd kind of missed the boat applying for Arts Council funding for the paper exhibition. I wasn't sure that the Arts Council would ever fund my 40 Farms exhibition, but I'm challenged all the time to make sure that every single exhibition at Rheged is on a break even. So I think the interesting thing for us about doing the Arts Council application is that it made us think very laterally about how we could sort of make this exhibition even more engaging. And through the funding or through the application, we were able to bring in all sorts of other dimensions. So bear with me a sec. So we're able to do a commission. So we're like, how can we, if everyone's seen this exhibition, how can we get them more involved in sort of creating their own farm for the future? And so we did a call out to artists. Derek Eland won the commission, and he's created a mural. I'll go on to that in a bit more detail, but anyway, the Arts Council, I'll talk about different elements that meant that we were successful in that. I think also the fact that the audience for this exhibition, as well as the general public, is also farmers who rarely come into a gallery, so that was also quite an attractive thing. So we got 20,000 from the Arts Council, and then I have got a further 20,000 from all these other partners. So I pitched for the first time ever to private sector partners to provide funding for this exhibition. And this has meant that we're able to run this exhibition for much longer, 14 weeks it will run for now until the 4th of January. And it means that we can make this exhibition free, which is really, really critical at this time. So next slide, please. So here is Derek's commission. So he painted this mural on the wall of a known landscape, and then there is 10 spaces on the landscape, and there's 36 different kind of fields that he's created. So you can create your own landscape. So, you know, if you had a farm, would it have wind farms, or would it have tourism pods, or would you rewild the whole lot, or would you have some animals there? So you can create this mural and then share it on social media. And then there's also a diary wall where we're collecting memories of people's memories of farming or their thoughts about the exhibition. Next slide, please. We also worked with the Wonderless Women, who are a wonderful group of Asian ladies based in Penrith. Amira here holding the chicken has moved from Bolton and created this amazing group inspiring Asian ladies to get out in the outdoors, walk on the fells, swim the lakes, and as a way of building their confidence. And so we commissioned a special film within the exhibition where we brought Amira and her group together with Amy Bateman and some Cumbrian farmers, and they had a day on the farm, and they talked about how to break down the barriers of helping Wonderless women be accepted and welcomed on the landscape. But also it's interesting because there's people like Maria Benjamin involved in that, sharing also about how women in farming also face quite a lot of barriers as well. So it's a great conversation that was captured over a needle felting workshop. We've worked with the young farmers, 1,000 members of Cumbrian Young Farmers now, to run a photography competition. And so we've given them some training. We've had 6 winners come out of that competition, and their work is also exhibited in the exhibition. One of the winners here, Jenny, photographed with Amy. We offered the opportunity for them to help curate the exhibition. So Jenny took up that opportunity, so she was part of our in-stall exhibition team, and we'll be running a free creative workshop for 24 young people to learn how to write creatively and take wonderful photographs to help tell their story on digital channels. We're also offering, we ran the first one yesterday, free school trips for up to 100 pupils from Workington, bringing them on a farm walk to collect flora and fauna, to then take part in a cyanotype print working workshop, and then they're going to get their work displayed in the gallery. Also having a tour here with Amy Bateman, and they did a sausage making activity as well. Next slide, please. So lots of great stories, which I'll just go through really quickly. So here's Maria Benjamin, a newcomer farmer. This is Honeysuckle, her Jersey cow, and she's used the milk from the cow to create a soap business. And she's also created a whole range of tweed and handmade bags from her own wool, and also wool from nearby farmers. And that's all within the exhibition as well. So we're also showing all the artifacts that within the exhibition. Next slide, please. This is Susan Aglaby, another dimension on farming. She's been running farm visits for schools for over 20 years. Now she's a lifeline for vulnerable young people and closing the gap between the countryside and urban life. Another one of our 40 farms featured. Next slide. Sarah Hogarth, award-winning rough fell sheep breeder in Sebba. She's a female farmer, absolutely leading the way in her field and inspiring her daughters to also carry on the family farm. Next slide, please. This is Posh Spice, the most expensive cow ever sold at an auction mart for eye-watering £265,000. This is bought by Alan Jenkinson, who his passion project is his herd of limousine cattle that he goes and sees every day when he's not running his hugely successful haulage business in Penrith. Next slide, please. So lots and lots of stories. There's also elements about how to make sausages, how to make charcoal, how the egg business works at Lake's free range eggs. So it's very educational for children too. So it's free, just developing loads of events around it now, creative classes, debates, talks, food festival, wool weekend. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. That's amazing, Claire. I think Posh Spice knows he's pretty special by that photograph. He looked like he knew he was a pretty special cow.
She
She knew that she was a pretty special cow. That's fantastic and really interesting for you to give us a tiny insight into the funding that you got for it as well, and how you went about it, and the sort of little journey you went on to get that funding. You know, that's fantastic, and it's the fact that it's allowed you to do all those things is really enlightening. So thank you for sharing that as well. Please go and see that, especially Rheged. The book, I think I've seen the book somewhere as well, looks fabulous too. So you know, some really lovely stuff going on there. Claire, thank you so much. I'm conscious of time. I want to give, speaking of Posh Spice, I want to give Derek Cannon 30 seconds because he's looking for some people to join in some acting. You've got 30 seconds, Derek. Off you go.
Right, thank you very much. Well, we certainly touched the cultural heights this morning. Thank you. I'm now dragging you down to the bargain basement. There is an annual pantomime in Braithwaite with which I have been involved for some years. The performances of this year's will be in January next year. That is when we traditionally perform on the 20th and 21st. The pantomime is Cinderella. A number of us are almost as old as I am, and we are very keen to find new people to take part. So if you're interested, or you know anyone who might be and lives within reasonable distance of Braithwaite, then please get in touch with me. I put my contact details in chat. Whether you are experienced or completely inexperienced, it matters not. This is essentially a community event, an opportunity for the community to take part in something which is intended to be fun and usually is. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. And I love the fact on this call we can go from flight to Braithwaite pantomime with Florence.
Oh, I didn't mention one of the, it's actually got the grand association of being called the Allerdale Players, which is
the Allerdale Players.
But there we go.
Okay, we've reached the heights once again. That's great. Thank you very much, Derek. As I was saying, all in between with the lovely Dorothy Ramsay exhibition at Egremont at the Florence Arts Mine, and also the beautiful exhibition at Rheged. So thank you very much to Jack, to Anne, to Claire, and to Derek for telling us all about the stuff going on in Cumbria. Next week, we're going to be looking at local government reorganisation. Again, we cover everything on these calls. So if you want to know how that might impact on funding, on how things could be organised, Chris Bridgman is going to lead that one next week. And we'll have one or two people who know a bit about it. It happens in April next year. It's important. And if there's an arts and cultural flag to be flown, then we need to do that on this call and in this organisation and all the organisations connected to the network as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend.